Hello, I'm with Nikki Caputa and we're going to chat about UK Hypopressives.
Fitness. I'm a health and fitness coach, and I came across hypopressives because I've had twins and I had associated problems after birth, and I just found conventional treatment wasn't really helping me. I tried all of the sort of women's health physio, pelvic floor squeezes, all of that sort of stuff, and I still had issues with incontinence. So I looked to find something else. We saw the gap in the UK market in that there isn't anything like this here. It's been in Spain and Spanish speaking countries for over 35 years. It's being used by physiotherapists. In fact, we know for a fact that once a woman's had a baby, that's part of their treatment, is to have hypopressive treatment, to teach the woman how to take responsibility for her own healing process. So therefore, as time goes on, she won't end up with severe issues like I had with incontinence, or worse, things like a pelvic organ prolapse, diastases, any of those types of things. It's good for hernia prevention. It's good for all sorts of different things. So about 5 years ago we trained, and we just decided that it was something that we needed to push forward into the UK, and so that's really where the bulk of my business is now, is getting it out there and telling people about it.
I suppose I've had a baby, and I remember the midwife afterwards saying, do your pelvic floor, floor, and I really didn't take much notice of her. I didn't really think it was that important.
Well, I did. I think I suppose it depends on if you had any issues. So a lot of women go through a birth and everything's absolutely fine, or if it's not, it settles down quite quickly. What you've got to remember as well is that for the mother, the focus for her is pretty much 100% on that new baby, that new life she's brought in, and her own worth and her own situation gets pushed to one side until maybe that child is a little bit older and she has time to really start to think about herself again. But even then, it's still not a top priority. So unfortunately, and also I think the messages that we're given, do your pelvic floor squeezes. We do those exercises and we don't see any difference, and then we think, well, what's the point? So we don't do them.
That's how I felt.
What's the point of doing it?
I didn't really understand either. I'm guessing it's the strain of childbirth or the strain of the baby actually passing through. I'm not sure.
Well, not necessarily.
What is it that causes incontinence after childbirth?
It's not, there's all sorts of problems you can get after childbirth, and it's not necessarily the way that you've given birth, although sometimes if it's a traumatic birth or you've had a tear or you've been cut, then obviously that's going to cause a weakness. A lot of it is down to the individual before they even got pregnant, what their jigsaw, what their history was like. So if there's someone that maybe did a lot of sport, it's all about getting your core function to work properly, and it's all about how you handle the pressures of everyday life. So if you're doing a lot of sport, then you're doing a lot of high pressured, high intensity activities, so that does put pressure on your core, and if your core doesn't function properly, then that can start to cause a weakness, and that can manifest itself, before you've even thought about having a baby, in things like back pain, postural issues, neck pain, all sorts of things like that you wouldn't think would have anything to do with your pelvic floor or your core. It kind of depends on the picture before you get pregnant, and then actually the carrying of the baby can cause a prolapse. You think that baby's growing, it's got very limited space, really limited space, and your pelvic organs are already, before you get pregnant...
Well, you're always wanting to pee anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, they're a tightly packed little jigsaw. Yeah. So, if you think that, that in the final trimester, everything's being squashed out of the way, like you said, you're getting up every couple of hours a night to go to the toilet, preparing you for broken sleep, but, it's not great. So, I think people think, oh yeah, well I had a C-section, so why have I got these issues? But actually, it's that constant pressure of the baby down on your pelvic organs that can start to cause issues before you even think about giving birth. In my case, I loved sport. I did lots of. I went to the gym a lot. I rode horses, so I'd had a few falls off of horses. So I had a bit of trauma on my body. I'd done lots of exercise, like I say, and then I had twins. So carrying twins, I was almost feel fortunate that all I had was stress and urge incontinence. And if you want me to explain what stress and urge incontinence is, stress incontinence I like to think about where you can't control the urge to wee or leak when you sneeze, cough, laugh, exercise,
so it's
run.
not stress as in you're stressed.
It can be, but your system's under stress. So like with a sneeze, it's a sudden burst of high pressure.
And you have no control, do you?
No. And so your core needs to function in a way that it knows you're going to sneeze before you even do, so it kicks in.
Because I've heard women say that when they're laughing, or I've whipped myself.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I thought it was a joke until I actually got older and it started happening to me, and then you think, no, that's not funny.
No. So that's kind of what stress incontinence is. And you know, like if you're doing high impact exercise, that can be another time that you get caught with stress incontinence. Urge incontinence is not being able to control the urge to go to the toilet, or needing to go to the toilet more often than you really should do.
Okay.
So I always talk about mine as being like that latchkey moment when say you've been on a long drive and you pull up on your driveway, and my toilet's at the end of my hallway, so you almost, the action of putting your key in the door will make you leak because you're so desperate to go to the toilet you can't control it.
Right.
So, and also there's like getting up at night to pee. Most people think that's just an age thing, and to a certain degree it is, because with age you get the weakness in your core will increase. But there is something you can do about that. You don't have to be getting up multiple times at night to go to the toilet and having broken sleep. You can do some exercise that will help with that and help strengthen and support.
Because of your age, and the muscles have weakened, and I also thought that if you need to pee, you need to get up.
Yeah, but
surely if
the
that
bladder's
full, it's going to wait.
But sometimes it's not. So it's just that it's almost like you've had that message to your bladder when you don't actually need to, and because the area around it is weak, it's not able to support. So therefore you're going to the toilet more often. In terms of age, we could blame a lot of things on our age, and obviously loss of muscle is a thing, but again you can get in the gym and you can do more weight bearing stuff, and you can improve that. So I'm testament to the fact that you can, I'm 50 now, and that I'm probably the strongest and the most muscly I've ever been, because it doesn't have to be that as you get older you just get more saggy and more lax. And it's exactly the same with the internal working. So your core, your deep core muscles, your pelvic floor, your diaphragm, they can all still function and work properly. They don't have to be heading south. It's just that it takes a little bit of commitment and consistency from doing the exercise.
So you give people life skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
On how to control these urges, how to.
Yeah, and it helps with a multitude of things. So yeah, it's I always think it's about taking a bit of responsibility and not accepting that it's okay to leak occasionally, or you have to wear a pad when you run, or you've got a prolapse, you can feel the symptoms but you're not doing anything about it because the doctor's told you it's not actually bad enough to have surgery. So sorry, that's my phone ringing in the background. You can tell it's real live recording. Let's just carry on, ignore that for now. But yeah, so I think that it's through having the sessions of exercise, it's about giving someone the tools to be able to do something for themselves.
Yeah. So they're one-to-one classes that you do?
Yes. So and it can be anything from sort of 2 hours with me up to 6 hours. But usually after 6 hours, people don't really need any more training, and that would be done over a period of time. I'm finding more, because my teaching skills are so improved, that I'm now able to kind of give somebody an hour or 2 hour session and then leave them to go away and practice that, and then they'll come back to me and say, right, I'm ready for some more now, and then we'll kind of go from there, and it moves through the program. Basically, the hypopressive program is teaching someone to engage their core in a different way through breathing and postures. So the postures will also help with improving back pain and improving postural pain.
So what muscles are you, I know you keep saying the core, so what muscles are you actually aiming at? Are you aiming...
All of them. The hypopressives is a global system, so if you think about what
I thought you were just sort of talking about the pelvic area.
No, so if you think about the core, I like to think about it like a house.
Okay.
So the thing is with the house is most people concentrate on their abs as their bit they see at the front there. They're like, this needs to look good. Think about your core as a house and think about, most people concentrate on that six pack, you know, what their washboard stomach's going to look like. But actually, if you were thinking about it from a house terms, that's just the paint and the plaster on the outside. The most important parts of that house, the bits that are holding it up, are the foundations and the roof. If we've got bad foundations, if we've got holes and cracks and divots in our foundation, and we've got holes and cracks in our roof, then that house over time is going to get weaker and weaker, and the walls are going to start to crumble, and it won't matter how gorgeous the paintwork looks or how good the plaster is or what the interior looks like. If those two aren't strong and they're not going to hold that house together. So think about that when you're thinking about your core, is that those two functioning well and those two being strong are the key drivers for your core, and then they connect to everything else within that house. So they will start to talk to the rest of the house in a completely different way. So you get a much better communication from all the muscles. That's just the breathing element of hypopressives. The postural element, where we start to put you in postures and to get you to think about maybe how you can improve your posture, that will start to train the lazier muscles, the muscles that we're using more for sitting down and being in, you know, not so great positions, to actually work in a different way. So it does affect people's posture quite quickly.
So has our lifestyle made this worse?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that just as a nation, we sit for more hours than we should do. We drive for longer distance.
I suppose
so
our work now is at computers, isn't
exactly.
it?
Exactly. You know, there's not so much sort of, I mean, there's obviously still active manual jobs, but more people are doing desk jobs, people are doing things where they're sat down all the time, and it's not necessarily very good for their posture. And when the postural muscles aren't working properly, that will weaken the core. So although we're talking about this as like a postnatal thing, you know, something that sounds like it affects just women, it's really beneficial for men as well. I mean, you think a stressed out guy that works maybe 8 to 10 hours a day behind a computer, gets in his car, drives home, he will have been sat the whole time and he's stressed. Because of the nature of the breathing, it will reduce the stress because it's a very mindful practice and it gets you to really focus in on how you're feeling. So it will reduce the stress through the breathing and then help with his posture and his pain, because usually after a period of time there's going to be some, you know, in one position there's going to be some form of pain. So it can help with a multitude of things. For guys, you know, they don't really think about, if they think about exercise, they think about getting in the gym and getting really sweaty or, you know, doing a boot camp or doing something raw, you know. Yeah. But it can be just as beneficial as a switch off and a de-stress and a way to really get their core functioning completely differently to what it is at the moment. And it's fantastic for prevention. So, you know, just long-term pain relief from poor posture, back pain, that sort of thing. For men, hernias, and again, it's the same thing for them, getting up to pee at night. Men over 50, they just sort of almost think it's quite normal to get up multiple times to go to the toilet, and it isn't. You know, that's a form of weakness. They've got pelvic floors as well. Their core is all of the muscles are pretty much the same. It's
because
just
men, when they hit middle age, well, women when we hit middle age, our bellies, we gain weight around our middles, don't we? Everything seems
But I think that with women, that's just really because you've become slightly less active, and it's almost like it coincides with that age.
Do you think?
I absolutely think. I really don't think it's a hormonal thing as much as people think it is. I mean, like I said, I'm 50, and I do train a lot, but you know, just being more active, just thinking about how many steps you take and Maybe looking at your food consumption, because that's usually all it is just that you've carried on eating the same amount of food but you don't move as much as you used to.
Yeah. Why do men then? Because men do as well, don't they? Is that because they're slowing down as well?
Yeah.
With their bellies?
Yeah, and then the alcohol a lot of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it is just overconsumption and not moving enough. Not so much because it's an ageing thing. We just generally slow down, we're more tired, and we don't readjust what we eat to the fact that we're not moving as much. We still carry on having the same amount of food or more.
So once, say, you've taught somebody the skill of, is it exercising those muscles?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exercising those muscles, toning those muscles up. So now you're not peeing yourself as much as you were before, whether you're a man or a woman, or your urge isn't as much. And they stop seeing you. They have to carry on learning, doing these exercises.
It's like anything, if you go on a diet and you lose lots of weight and you're really happy with your shape, but then you think, well, that's it, I'm off my diet now, I'm just going to eat what I ate before. Well, you're going to be the same shape as you were before because, that's what got you there in the first place. Now my phone's ringing again. I can't believe this. Why is it everybody rings me when I'm doing a recording? Thank you for that. Don't know who that was. Probably leave a message and it'll ring again.
That's someone who wants to give you millions of pounds
to
teach.
Oh yeah, that'd be great if they could. What were we talking about? We were talking about.
Well, I said about getting old, and
but it's like if say you're a bodybuilder and you get a really good physique and you go and compete, and then you stop training. You're not going to look like you did when you stepped on the stage and you competed. If you stop training, you're still going to keep some tone. You're going to keep a better shape probably than you were before you started being a bodybuilder. But if you stopped completely, then there's a certain amount of muscle memory that will be lost. So it's exactly the same with hypopressives. I find with my own practice, I really need to do about sort of 10-15 minutes a day of the practice, and then that keeps my symptoms at bay.
What would you recommend? What would you say? Because I haven't got a clue what it's like. I don't know. The only thing I can think of in my head is I keep thinking it must be something like yoga.
Yeah,
what's it like?
It's a mixture. Well, it's breathing and posture. So you're standing in a posture and you're teaching yourself to do lateral breathing, which is ribcage breathing. So in doing that ribcage breathing, you're starting to get more activation through the diaphragm, which, as we talked about with your house, is your roof. And the diaphragm, that top part of your core, has a relationship with the pelvic floor where when one does one thing, the other one does the same. So they've got this mirror effect. So we know that if we can get your diaphragm moving more and functioning better, we're getting your pelvic floor moving more and functioning better.
Okay, I
didn't
know that.
The roof and the floor communicate together. They talk together, and that's done through the breathing. But as I say, by being in those postures, we start to also train weaker muscles that may be like in the back, which are making you slump forward. They start to get more tone in them and to be able to bring you up more upright and to not have your shoulders forward and to not have your head forward and all of that. So I just find as long as I factor in sort of 10 to 15 minutes a day, then I don't have any symptoms whatsoever. If I let it slip for sort of 2 or 3 months where I'm not doing anything, they start.
As well as your other, because you're quite fit anyway, aren't you? So you do.
I go to the gym,
Yeah.
And I walk a lot, so but 10 to 15 minutes a day people can waste scrolling on Facebook.
Yes, they can.
So that's one of the selling points with it is that we know you've got 10 to 15 minutes a day because you will waste time scrolling through your phone for that amount of time without even realising it.
So once you've taught these exercises,
just
they
put
can do that every
time
day,
aside to do it,
and they can then save all this embarrassment,
and they can prevent things from getting any worse. They can prevent the need for surgery.
Wearing those pads.
Pads. All of these things that we're thinking are normal. They're not. They're really common, but they're not a normal thing. You shouldn't be living with any form of leakage.
No.
There is something that you can do about it. So all I'd say is it's something that people need to learn and to take responsibility and do themselves.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome. Thank you.